Welcome to the DefCam. For years, the JF-17 Thunder was spoken of as a practical fighter built for national needs, a tool shaped by necessity rather than ambition. That perception is now quietly changing. Each new export discussion signals something deeper than a sales pitch. It reflects confidence, maturity, and a shift in how Pakistan's air power ecosystem is being perceived abroad. The reported negotiations between Somalia and Pakistan for the acquisition of 24 JF-17 Thunder Block Three fighter aircraft are not remarkable because of the numbers alone. They matter because of what they say about trust, intent, and the evolving role of the Pakistan Air Force as a builder of capability rather than merely a user of it. Somalia's interest stands out sharply when placed against its financial reality. A defense budget of approximately $171 million does not allow for indulgence or symbolism. Every major procurement decision must serve multiple purposes at once. The reported plan to acquire 2 complete squadrons suggests a long-term vision rather than a token force. For a country that has spent decades focused on internal security and externally supported operations, this marks a deliberate move toward restoring sovereign control of airspace and maritime approaches. Somalia's coastline stretches over 3,300 kilometers, much of it lightly monitored and vulnerable to smuggling, piracy, and unauthorized incursions. Air power in this context is not a prestige asset. It is an enabling instrument of state authority. The JF-17 Block 3 is technically suited to such a role in ways that many heavier and costlier fighters are not. Its design philosophy favors balance rather than excess. At its core is an active electronically scanned array radar that allows simultaneous tracking of multiple air and surface targets while maintaining resilience against electronic interference. This radar architecture is critical for operations over open water and sparsely populated terrain where situational awareness must be maintained without dense ground-based sensor networks. The integration of modern electronic warfare systems further strengthens survivability by allowing the aircraft to detect, classify, and respond to hostile emissions in real time. For a country rebuilding its air force from a low baseline, this reduces dependence on external protection and embedded foreign support. The cockpit environment of the Block 3 reflects a generational shift from legacy fighters still operated across much of Africa. The helmet-mounted display allows the pilot to cue weapons and sensors simply by looking at the target, reducing reaction time in both air combat and strike missions. This is paired with beyond visual range missile capability that changes the calculus of deterrence. Even without seeking confrontation, the ability to engage threats before visual contact reshapes how neighboring actors assess risk. In regions where airspace violations and coercive overflights have historically gone unanswered, this capability alone can stabilize behavior through uncertainty. Powering the aircraft is the RD-93MA engine, which provides improved thrust and efficiency compared to earlier variants. The resulting combat radius exceeding 1,350 kilometers is not an abstract statistic. It determines how much of Somalia's territory and maritime zone can be covered without forward basing or aerial refueling infrastructure. For a country with limited airfields and fragile logistics, this matters enormously. It allows persistent patrols along the coast, rapid response to incursions, and credible reach over inland regions that are otherwise difficult to monitor. The aircraft's ability to carry a mixed payload of air-to-air and air-to-surface weapons further supports its role as a true multi-role platform rather than a narrowly specialized interceptor. What makes this potential deal more significant is not only what Somalia gains, but what Pakistan demonstrates. Exporting advanced combat aircraft is never just a transaction. It requires confidence in training pipelines, maintenance support, spare parts availability, and long-term upgrades. The Pakistan Air Force has spent years building an integrated ecosystem around the JF-17, including pilot conversion, ground crew training, mission planning, and sustainment under resource constraints. Offering this ecosystem to another country signals a belief that it is robust enough to function beyond national borders. It also reflects a shift from dependency on foreign original manufacturers toward greater control over configuration, integration, and lifecycle management. In strategic terms, this represents an inflection point in the Horn of Africa. Air power there has long been fragmented, often dependent on donor support or short-term leasing arrangements. A permanent, sovereign fighter force changes regional dynamics by introducing continuity and accountability. It allows Somalia to participate in regional security frameworks as a contributor rather than a passive recipient. It also complicates the calculations of any actor considering coercion along its airspace or coastline. The presence of two modern fighter squadrons does not guarantee dominance, but it establishes a baseline of deterrence that did not previously exist. For Pakistan, each new buyer reinforces a broader narrative. The JF-17 is no longer simply an affordable alternative for constrained budgets. It is increasingly seen as a platform that offers credible modern capability without strategic strings attached. This matters in a world where defense procurement is often entangled with political alignment and operational dependency. Countries like Somalia are not just buying aircraft. They are buying a degree of autonomy, the ability to operate, maintain, and adapt their air power without constant external oversight. There is also a symbolic dimension that should not be ignored. Somalia's decision to negotiate for a frontline fighter reflects a desire to close a chapter defined by fragmentation and reliance. It signals an aspiration to normalize state functions, including the defense of airspace and maritime interests. That such an aspiration is being pursued through partnership with Pakistan speaks to how Pakistan's defense industry is being perceived in parts of the developing world, not as a stopgap supplier, but as a partner with shared experience of operating under constraints while maintaining operational credibility. If finalized, the deal will likely be studied closely by other countries facing similar challenges. Large territory, limited budgets, and the need for multi-role capability describe much of Africa and parts of the Middle East. The JF-17 Block Three fits this niche with unusual precision. It does not promise technological excess. It promises sufficiency, reliability, and growth. That combination is often more persuasive than raw performance figures. In the end, the rising number of JF-17 buyers is less about sales momentum and more about a quiet shift in how air power is being built and shared. Pakistan is moving beyond the role of a defensive operator toward that of an exporter of integrated capability. Somalia, in turn, is reaching beyond survival toward sovereignty. Where those trajectories meet, the result is not just a contract, but a signal that the balance of air power in overlooked regions is beginning to change in subtle but lasting ways. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for upcoming videos.